My name is Father Thomas Steike, and I'm currently serving at St. Anthony of Padua Parish in New Bedford, Massachusetts. Today is Saturday of the third week of Lent, and I'm going to be talking about the fulfillment of the message of Fatima. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus addressed this parable to those who were convinced of their own righteousness and despised everyone else. Two people went up to the temple area to pray. One was a Pharisee and the other was a tax collector. The Pharisee took up his position and spoke this prayer to himself. "O God, I thank you that I am not like the rest of humanity, greedy, dishonest, adulterous, even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week, and I pay tithes on my whole income." But the tax collector stood off at a distance and would not even raise his eyes to heaven, but beat his breast and prayed, "O God, be merciful to me, a sinner." I tell you, the latter went home justified, not the former. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, and the one who humbles himself will be exalted. The Gospel of the Lord. In today's first reading, Hosea says, "Come, let us return to the Lord. It is He who has rent, but He will heal us. He has struck us, but He will bind our wounds." In the economy of salvation, the Lord often afflicts us so that He can heal us when we turn far away from Him. He brings us to our knees. We saw a foreshadowing of this after 9/11. Church attendance rose immediately, but then fell off again. I think that within the not too distant future, we're going to see something that makes 9/11 look like a walk in the park. I could be wrong, but I'll give you my reasoning and let you decide. On March 25th, 2022, the Pope, in union with the bishops, consecrated Russia and Ukraine to the Immaculate Heart of Mary. It would make sense then that maybe this could be the infancy stages of the triumph of the Immaculate Heart of Mary. Our Lady of Fatima said that if we don't consecrate Russia to her Immaculate Heart and make reparation to her Immaculate Heart, the good will be martyred, the Holy Father will have much to suffer, and various nations will be annihilated. Is the consecration going to avert the annihilation of many nations? Have we made reparation to her Immaculate Heart? I can only give you my perspective based on my training in theology and from what has been said in approved apparitions. The short answer is no. When God's justice comes full throttle, I believe it will be swift and brutal. The whole world is mocking God now, and God will not be mocked. God's chastisements of the Israelites was a recurring theme throughout the Old Testament. St. Peter warns us that if God did not spare the ancient world when He brought a flood upon the godless world, and if He condemned the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah to destruction, reducing them to ashes, making them an example for the godless people of what is coming. Jude says that Sodom and Gomorrah, which indulged in sexual promiscuity and practiced unnatural vice, serve as an example by undergoing a punishment of eternal fire. So these passages are warnings of the just punishment that follows upon the nature of sin. Our Lady of Fatima told St. Jacinta that wars and punishment for sins are punishments for sins of the world. She said the First World War is going to end, but if people do not cease offending God, a worse one will break out during the pontificate of Pius XI. Maybe 2.5 times as many people died in World War II. So imagine how pure and holy the people were in the world in 1917 and in the 1940s in comparison with today. Imagine how many people are going to die in the next World War based on how sinful the world is, and if war is caused by sin. Then imagine what a world war would be like that involved nuclear weapons. In the third part of this Secret of Fatima, the three children had a vision which Lucia describes. At the left of Our Lady, we saw an angel with a flaming sword in his left hand. Flashing it gave out flames that looked as though they would set the world on fire. In the interpretation of this third secret of Fatima, the theological commentary by Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger, who was acting as the prefect of the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, it says that, quotes, "The angel with the flaming sword on the left of the Mother of God recalls similar images in the book of Revelation. This represents the threat of judgment which looms over the world. Today, the prospect that the world might be reduced to ashes by a sea of fire no longer seems pure fantasy. Man himself, with his inventions, has forged the flaming sword." When he became Pope Benedict XVI, he commented that, quotes, "Humanity today is unfortunately experiencing great division and sharp conflicts, which cast dark shadows on its future. The danger of an increase in the number of countries possessing nuclear weapons causes well-founded apprehension in every responsible person." The third secret continues. Beneath the two arms of the cross there were two angels, each with a crystal aspersordium in his hand, in which they gathered up the blood of the martyrs, and with it sprinkled the souls that were making their way to God. Sounds like the triumph of the Immaculate Heart. The souls making their way to God will come through blood, through redemptive suffering. I think we have to be realistic at this point. John Paul II was asked explicitly to speak about the third secret. He said, quotes, "We must be prepared to undergo great trials in the not-too-distant future, trials that will require us to be ready to give up even our lives. Through your prayers and mine, it is possible to alleviate this tribulation, but it is no longer possible to avert it, because it is only in this way that the Church can be effectively renewed. How many times indeed has the renewal of the Church been effected in blood? This time again, it will not be otherwise." I believe him.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed hearing the Gospel and homily, I invite you to share it with someone you know who may also find it rewarding, and also to subscribe to the Catholic Voice channel. Please see in the description below if you would like to receive a text message for each daily Gospel and homily. Please also keep our missionary priests throughout the world in your prayers. Thank you, and God bless.